I woke up with a start. The small bedroom in my even smaller apartment offered me no solace, no comfort from my last nightmare. Breathing heavily, I looked around into the darkness. Could barely make out the bathroom door in the corner. The Xbox One controller lying at my fingertips. I glanced over at the framed photos showing me, Naomi Henderson, my nerdy glasses, the long black hair and scrawny frame. The awkward smile that had yet to melt a man's heart in my 32 years. A burst of thunder made me jump. Several windows showcased the brutal storm. Columbus, Georgia, currently caught up in Mother Nature's blitzkrieg. The steady raindrops, like deafening bullets for my fragile psyche. The blurry digits on my Star Wars clock radio alerted me to the time. The growing unease made me shiver in the January cold. Here it was, 3 a.m. The witching hour. Another round of thunder further pushed me towards fright. In a clumsy struggle I reached towards the nightstand, fumbled for the lamp. But even the bright light didn't help. My eyes struggled to adjust. Surrounded by rain, I felt alienated and alone, even in my own home. I felt dread rather than safety. And then I saw why. Bullman was back. Amidst my blurry daze, I could see him standing in the doorway, the only clear sight in the entire apartment, and also the most unsettling one. Dressed in a flowing red robe, Bullman stared right at me, or at least, what I assumed was a man. What I assumed was a human. Rather than a head or a face, his hood attempted to cover a bull's skull. The bones so pristine, his eye sockets sharpened to fixate upon me. The bull's horns protruding out of the cloak as if this man was the defiant devil himself. And all the while, the tall man just stood there. He held those skeletal arms out, waiting for me to run into his sinister grasp. Just like he'd been doing so often these past few weeks. I watched him, my feelings now entering outright terror. The thunder roared outside, and then the bullman made his move. He charged right at me, his movements wild and frenetic, the skull and horns so vivid on an otherwise disorienting canvas, and only looking scarier the closer he got. I jumped and bolted for the bathroom. The shrill storm overshadowed my screams. I never once turned, but I still felt the man's presence. I felt those long arms extended just for me. I escaped into the cramped bathroom, my trembling hands flickering on the lights. With a quick glance, I turned to see the man was gone. I was back to being alone. Panicking, I rushed past the piles of dirty clothes and towels, straight towards the counter. I still struggled to see amongst this murky landscape. My feet splashed through water. No, I saw the one sight that was crystal clear. The bathtub. One filled to the brim with more water than this storm could ever offer. A tub populated by 2 tiny floating bodies. A naked boy and girl. Fighting back the tears, I stopped at the counter. The surface was so full of mysteries. A smorgasbord of items unfamiliar in this haze. Like a blindfolded child, I ran my hands over the counter in a sloppy search. I cried out into the night, heard so many items fall to the ground. "No!" I yelled. Heavy footsteps interrupted my frantic breakdown. I looked over at the doorway. I felt immediate fear immediately come rushing back. The bullman now stood only a few feet away. His horns were even taller. His stance was so confident and in control. His arms still begging for my soul. This terrifying sight was so clear, so precise, when everything else in my apartment was so out of focus. Then came the sudden splashes. I faced the bathtub, the only other HD scene my home had to offer. Both the little boy and girl stood up, their naked corpses knee-deep in the water, their bulging eyes glued to me, their bodies bloated from the many days and nights spent in this aquatic crypt. Both their stoic gazes destroyed whatever innocence they once had. Whatever innocence was taken from them. "Oh, God," I said through the horror. I forced my gaze back to the doorway. Bullman stood even closer. His methodical style was so sadistic. His movements nothing more than a smooth glide towards prey, with a heightened fear for adrenaline. I focused back on the bathroom counter. My hands moved in a wild rhythm over the surface, over those items, until I felt it. The tiny plastic case. Quick splashes erupted. Regardless of how much I tried to avoid the tub, my curiosity won. I looked over to see both kids now standing outside it, their shared glares still on me. Determined, I popped open the case, relying on the routine I'd hated since middle school, and I stuck those damn contacts in. I heard more footsteps getting closer. Bullman's arms lunging towards me, the last clear sight I saw. Until I blinked for emphasis, cringed from the burning, and then I looked around. My cold apartment had been remastered in an instant. Everything was now so clear and comforting. I saw all the many containers and brushes I'd knocked over earlier. Saw my glorious reflection in the mirror. To my relief, I was all alone. Again. Gone was the bullman and the creepy kids. I felt tears in my eyes. To my unease, I realised I was on my last pair of contacts. My new glasses wouldn't be ready till next week. After risking an eye infection these past few days, I decided to try and sleep without the lenses. Only every time I did, Bullman came, coming for me. Deep in my scarred soul, I knew Bullman and the kids were the only clear things I'd ever see when I was on my own. Without the aid of an optometrist, those frightening sights survived my blurred vision. The lone occupants in this distorted world around me. Leaning against the counter, more disturbing thoughts ran through my mind. Were the bullman and the children figments of my imagination? Were they illusions? Or were they what was really out there? Were they the true beings of my man-made veil? And if so, why did they keep coming for me? The anxiety anguished me, particularly when it came to the isolation I felt. Maybe I wasn't the only person who could see Bullman and these other creatures. Maybe those 2020 lottery winners weren't so lucky after all. Maybe they always saw the horror. My morbid meditation continued to affect me, and now my eyes were really watery, like a dam about to burst. Through the nerves, I struggled to suppress those tears. I struggled to keep those contacts from falling out. Well now, my fiendish lovelies, how did you like that? It was another wonderful tale by Rhonnie Fordham. Truly, great author. But still, it's time to go. So, until we meet again, I am the Wanderer. Do take care now, won't you?